Part 65. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 641. Zhang Lingzi took the mobile phone handed over by Shen Yunqing and clicked on the message Tong Yu had just sent her. Before she could ask what the three exclamation marks meant, another screenshot popped up. Click on the screenshot to see the hot search terms related to her above. Zhang Lingzi. This generation of netizens know how to create memes. The original intention of Tong Yu's message was to let her artist reflect a little bit. Why are the last hot search headlines so different? Soon, she got feedback. The phone vibrated, and it prompted Zhang Lingzi V, whom you are following, has just posted a new update. Tong Yu suddenly felt her heart beating suddenly, and she had a bad premonition for no reason, so she quickly opened it. Zhang Lingzi V, response, not familiar with it? Just 4 words with punctuation marks, successfully made Tong Yu feel like her eyes were darkening. Netizens questioned her lack of understanding of the world, saying that she was not familiar with her and there was no need to be sophisticated with people she was not familiar with. Is this what you mean? Right? Fans who received a notification about their idol's new news and expected to receive a wave of beautiful red carpet photos after clicking on it said, "Gang, too rigid. Must like it?" After posting the news, Zhang Lingzi closed the page. It doesn't matter whether everyone likes it or not, she just expressed her attitude. After finishing her work, she turned around and looked over. The look from behind was not only like thorns piercing my back, but it was still a little uncomfortable. Unexpectedly, Zhang Lingzi would suddenly look back. Gu Jiantong and Wei Ni froze subconsciously. Wei Ni reacted first, parted her lips, raised her hand and said hello with a smile, "Hi, Miss Zhang, we meet again. What a coincidence, we are so close." Zhang Lingzi nodded towards her, "Miss Wei Ni." Looking at Gu Jiantong again, "Miss Gu, do I have any flowers on me?" The two looked at each other for a moment. In the end, Gu Jiantong couldn't hold on and looked away with her mouth tightly pursed. Weenie. Complicated feelings. Before, she only knew that her friend was not getting along with this Zhang girl, and she thought there was just a minor conflict between the two. But now, she probably knows why. While I felt incredible, I also didn't know what to say. This is the first time she has seen Gu Jiantong being so jealous of a man. She is not at all as cool as she used to be in the world of play. But Miss Zhang and this gentleman seem to have a very good relationship. They are good friends and they shouldn't get involved. It's just an emotional matter. She has seen a lot of it since she was so old and in a big family like Alber's. Many people couldn't even persuade him to go in, not to mention that my friend was already strong-tempered and stubborn, and he had to break through the southern wall before he could look back. After careful consideration, Wei Ni decided to remain silent. I hope my friend can bear the pain and let go, otherwise, the consequences will be hard to say. Not to mention that the opponent is still this girl Zhang. Anyway, she has no hope for her friend. Asterisk. Zhou Lingyu waited until the staff was about to force her into the infield, then she lifted up her skirt and walked in. "Give me the phone." The assistant who was waiting at the entrance and her legs were numb from standing there quickly handed over her mobile phone. After being led to a seat by the infield staff, Zhou Lingyu couldn't wait to turn on her mobile phone and start browsing. Having taken so many photos on the red carpet before, her beautiful red carpet photos should be flying all over the internet now. The smile ends at the moment you click on the hot search. Scrolling through the hot search list from beginning to end, I finally found an entry with my name in the penultimate position. What happened to be written is, #Hulingyu's feet are spiked hashtag. Hands trembling, she clicked on it and saw that there were indeed red carpet photos, but the ones at the front were basically screenshots or videos of her being urged by the staff to leave quickly. Following this, I came across another one that was even more irritating. Some netizens actually compared her with Zhang Lingzi. Official accurate data is here. It is reported that the red carpet of this international fashion festival is 110 meters long, and it only takes about 1 minute to walk normally. However, considering that major celebrities have to cooperate with the media to take photos from time to time, the organizers allocate 3 to 5 minutes for everyone to complete the process. But as for our MS Zhou Lingyu, she simply didn't know what to do. She was shocked when she saw that she had been dawdling for nearly 8 minutes, which is equivalent to walking less than 15 meters in 1 minute, which is 2 steps for an adult. It can be called a turtle step. Laughing to death, the turtle step is so vivid. Zhang Lingzi was worthy of being stopped by the staff and told to walk slower. In addition to cooperating in taking a few photos, this girl walked faster than anyone else and got in only 2.5 minutes. The time it takes Zhou Lingyu to walk on the red carpet is almost enough for Zhang Lingzi to walk back and forth twice. These two people are really like one with nails under his feet and the other with wind under his feet. Zhou Lingyu looked at the increasingly dazzling words on the phone screen, wishing she could throw them under her feet and be crushed under their feet. When he looked up, he saw Zhang Lingzi sitting opposite. Still in the first row. She has only made it to the third row, and her position is not the best yet. Zhang Lingzi, why? The phone that kept vibrating brought her back to her thoughts. It is a message from the broker. Lingyu, pay attention to how you manage your expressions. Zhou Lingyu quickly lowered her head, took several deep breaths, and then raised her head when she felt she had adjusted better. Why is Sister 11 on the other side? Sister 11 is in the front row, look at me waving to her. Zhou Lingyu turned to look at the two people talking. As soon as Wei Minmin and Zhang Kaiwen sat down next to her, they couldn't wait to wave to Zhang Lingzi, who was sitting opposite. She was sitting next to her, and it was as if the two of them couldn't see her. Hey, Sister 11 saw me. I asked why I didn't see Sister 11 on the red carpet just now. It turned out that I was late. Unfortunately, I couldn't take a group photo. It's not too late to take photos after the show. Yes too. Zhou Lingyu was invited to take a photo on the red carpet but was rejected. These two people were arranged by her side specifically to hurt her heart, right? As the seats around the show gradually filled up, the main camera of the official live broadcast room also moved from the red carpet outside to the venue. The big screen at the show quietly lit up, attracting everyone's attention. Zhang Lingzi looked up as the crowd followed. What is playing on the screen are the classic shows and works created by Mr. Casso in his life. Seeing this, whether you already knew the theme of today's show or you had no idea at all, you all started to understand it now. Zhang Lingzi received the message from Mr. Kasuo, looked away from the big screen, handed the phone and the beads to Shen Yunqing, and quietly stood up. I'm going backstage. However, although she left in a low-key manner, many people noticed at the scene and in the live broadcast room. The big show is about to start. Why is Zhang Lingzi going at this time? Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 642. Until the fashion classic memoirs on the big screen finished playing, and the show was about to begin, the seat belonging to Zhang Lingzi was still empty. Still in the front row, it is conspicuously empty. Many people couldn't help but glance over. If I didn't want to sit in such a good seat, I would have given it to them if I had known earlier. There was also discussion on Zhang Lingzi's sudden disappearance in the live broadcast room and online. This chain was dropped at the wrong time. Will Zhang Lingzi not come back after leaving? Maybe there is something urgent. What could be more important now than watching Mr. Casso's final show? Actually, I have always had a question. The first row of seats for shows is usually reserved for VIPs personally invited by the old man. Wasn't it widely rumored on the internet that Zhang Lingzi's invitation was a forgery? Now I have a bold guess, that unique invitation letter was not given to Zhang Lingzi by Mr. Casuo, right? Don't say it, it's really possible. I just did a search and found that the hotly searched post questioning the forgery of John Lindsay's invitation letter has been quietly deleted by the author. Since Mr. Casso personally invited him, people left before the big show even started. Isn't it a bit disrespectful to the old man? Originally I wanted to nod in agreement with this, but I've been slapped in the face too many times before, so I'll just wait and see. Tong Yu resisted the urge to log in to her account and explain to John Lindsay. She watched the entry hashtag become a hot search topic and couldn't help but feel a little emotional. Originally, she planned to post John Lindsay's invitation to Mr. Casso's stage show directly to the internet. She had already reached the stage of thinking about the wording. It should not be too official and cold, nor should it be too exaggerated. As a result, when I asked for my opinion, I was directly rejected. When it comes to building momentum, John Lindsay feels that she is a professional. What's the point of saying it all in advance? Now the discussion is getting louder, and when the answer is revealed, the biggest feedback will be. Even Tong Yu had to admit that the step John Lindsay chose to take was much more clever than hers. It seems that after returning home, she can't just focus on urging her own artists and assistants to improve. As an agent, she also has to take some courses to improve herself. Just as Tong Yu was silently reflecting on the still lively discussion on the internet, others were also speculating on John Lindsay's whereabouts. Backstage at the show. No matter how orderly it is outside, there is always a busy scene behind the show behind a barrier. As soon as John Lindsay passed by, she was ushered in by an assistant waiting at the backstage entrance in advance. She met the assistant in Mr. Casso's studio yesterday, and he was not a stranger. The old man is making final adjustments to the opening model. If Miss Zhang needs anything, just tell me. John Lindsay nodded to her and said, okay. At the same time, he also met the gazes of those around him. Being able to be on the stage of Mr. Casso's big show, every model present is of the top international standard. At least John Lindsay just glanced around casually as she walked forward, and saw several faces that she had frequently seen online. She remembers that one of the photos of one of them was used as a cover by that girl Lu Zhengzheng. At that time, the girl introduced her to her as her favorite international supermodel. If this girl came over and saw the real person, she would probably go crazy with joy. Compared to John Lindsay, who was looking at the supermodels around her who had small and exquisite facial features and extremely good figures, and who were still thinking about something, the way they looked at her was much more complicated. There is still a barrier between the pure fashion circle and the entertainment circle, not to mention that John Lindsay was more active in the domestic entertainment circle before, so not many of the supermodels present knew her. But this girl with such a typical Chinese appearance, although she is tall and has long legs, but not yet the height standard of an international supermodel, is actually the person that Mr. Casso's assistant is waiting for at the entrance. It was really something they never expected. So what is this person here for? Is it possible that she is also a model coming to the catwalk? I wanted to think about it, but no one impulsively stopped the person and asked directly. They could only watch the other person continue to walk inside under the guidance of Mr. Casso's assistant. Is her. Stepping past a Chinese-looking model, John Lindsay stepped into the makeup booth prepared for her. Naturally, she didn't notice the man's surprised expression and tone. Sister Han, do you know the person who just entered? Han Rui came to her senses, but her mood was still a little complicated. Hearing a friend from the circle next door ask, he nodded casually. Her impression of John Lindsay still remained at the Liangchuan show held by Yunchen a few months ago. Because of some delays and a willful mentality, she let Yun Chan go. It was not until later that I learned that Yun Chan not only invited Mr. Kasuo to the show, but also an actor named John Lindsay helped Yun Chan to save the scene perfectly. She watched the video of the big show online several times, especially the few minutes when John Lindsay appeared. From then on, she remembered John Lindsay's name and appearance. It's just that I never expected that John Lingzi would appear backstage at Mr. Casso's show at this moment. Could it be that that one rescue effort earned this man the appreciation of Mr. Cascio? When she thought of this possibility, Han Rui suddenly felt a sharp pain in her heart. Then what did she miss? Sister Han, are you feeling uncomfortable somewhere? The makeup artist who was doing her makeup saw Han Rui suddenly turned ugly. She quickly stopped what she was doing and asked with concern. Han Rui looked at herself in the mirror and quickly adjusted her expression. I'm fine, let's go ahead and melt it. The makeup artist looked in the mirror and was stunned. He quickly turned around and greeted the person who happened to be walking over, Senior Yunping. Yunping nodded towards her and continued walking forward with his team. The makeup artist watched her leave, then turned around and continued working. I didn't expect that Senior Yunping would also be invited by the old man. I don't know who can let him do the makeup himself. Han Rui couldn't help but turn her head and look over. It is indeed not easy to invite this person here. As she watched, she saw Yunping leading the team behind him into the small cubicle where Zhang Lingzi had just entered. The hands on the knees were suddenly clenched. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 643. The atmosphere in the cubicle is warm. Yunping smiled as soon as he saw Zhang Lingzi, losing all the indifference he had towards others outside. When I first saw this dress made by the old man, the first thing that came to my mind was how you would look in it. She has still lost count of how many film and television dramas she has done, both at home and abroad, including many costume dramas. But when it comes to the makeup of the role of the emperor, she only feels that all the male emperors she has created before can't compare to Zhang Lingzi. It has nothing to do with looks and makeup, it's just about the aura of self-respect. I didn't expect that the old man actually invited you here. As soon as he asked me if I had time, I came without saying a word. She is afraid that others cannot give the most perfect presentation. That's right, that's how conceited it is. This time I also brought a set of crowns that I photographed because I really liked them. I thought I would have to keep them locked in a safe for the rest of my life, but this time I can finally put them to use. Zhang Lingzi looked at a portable safe held by her assistant. It was a fingerprint and a password, and it was finally opened after a lot of operations. What caught everyone's eyes was an exquisite black gold crown. At first glance, the shape is indeed a bit arrogant, but the decorations on it are still domineering and restrained. There are also a variety of composite crafts interspersed in it, which can make anyone who sees it unable to help but marvel. How about it? It's not bad, isn't it? Although it is a set of modern handicrafts, all the details are handmade by the artist, and the craftsmanship used in it spans thousands of years. In my opinion, after hundreds of years have passed, it will not be the same again. It is a treasure passed down from generation to generation. Zhang Lingzi looked at the crown that was carefully taken out and placed in front of her, reached out and touched a lifelike dragon beard on it, and nodded. It is indeed beautiful. Of course, even a true emperor would not wear such a gorgeous and exquisite crown on his head all the time. It is only worn during sacrifices and large-scale ceremonies to show solemnity. In today's situation, that's fine too. Shen Yunqing should not laugh at her. Hurry up and change your clothes, I can't wait to show off my skills. The heavy-duty dress that she wore on only one red carpet was replaced by a simple thin belted robe, making it easier to apply makeup and style. Finally, the dragon robe will be put on for display. After all, this dragon robe is nice to look at, but you can't sit down while wearing it. The music at the show outside changed quietly, and the lights dimmed, leaving only the large transparent T stage in the middle, which was as bright as before. When everyone on the surrounding seats saw this, they knew that the show had begun. Quickly put away his thoughts and looked at the stage with wide eyes. After all, we will no longer be able to see Mr. Casso's big show in the future. This big show is also being broadcast live simultaneously in the event live broadcast room. The barrage originally discussing Zhang Lingzi's whereabouts also quietly disappeared, replaced by the show itself. I didn't expect that this international fashion festival would also be Mr. Casso's final show. The Albos family gave the old man a lot of attention this time. Why are you suddenly ready to call it a day? The old man is obviously still an energetic young man. I don't think there will be any problem for him to remain in the fashion industry for another 10 years. Maybe I have been standing at the top for too long and feel lonely. I suddenly thought of the idea of retiring from the world. Although I am no longer in the fashion industry, there are legends about me everywhere in the fashion industry. You don't have to guess here. Since it's the curtain call, I guess the old man will most likely show up in person later to talk about it. Now just focus on watching the show. I have to say that every time I watch the old man's show, it is a visual feast. Hey, the audience at the scene may not have seen it clearly in the live broadcast room, but they can appreciate it up close. The light, shadow, sound, and color of this show are all in the style of the old man. I guess blindly it was made by the old man himself. Is it true that we will never see such a high-level show in the future? Well, there are many talented people in this generation, so I can only think of this sentence to comfort you. It takes about 2 minutes for each model to walk back and forth. The first model goes out, and the one behind him should be ready to wait at the exit position. Especially for the music beat, once you step on the wrong beat, it can easily lead to panic and the effect will be greatly reduced. Fortunately, the models in this show are all veterans who have been working on the catwalk for at least 2 or 3 years, so basically there will be no such mistakes. Everything has gone smoothly from the beginning to now. Han Rui is wearing a piece of clothing with Chinese characteristics. The upper body is a pink cardigan with hand-embroidered bird patterns on the chest. The lower body is an embroidered long skirt in the style of a phoenix skirt. Such clothes can generally only be worn by women from China. This is also the reason why she was selected as one of the models for this show. After all, supermodels who come from China and have a soft and graceful appearance are also very rare in the world. Walking to the waiting area, she silently encouraged herself. She was selected because she was an exception, so she was more nervous than others at this moment. Casso is also in the waiting area. He observes the condition of each model and makes adjustments when he finds something is wrong. After seeing Han Rui, he looked at her face and nodded. He chose Han Rui after naturally watching videos of her previous catwalks. In his opinion, her steps were a bit average, but fortunately her appearance and figure were bonus points. Especially, he prefers to match the clothes on the catwalk according to the characteristics of the models. Otherwise, Han Rui would have to practice for a few more years before he could be qualified to appear on his show stage just in terms of stage steps. Don't be nervous, your clothes are soft and gentle, so don't use tightness to fight against them. The old man had to listen to his opinions, and Han Rui could only take a deep breath to control her nervousness. But before she was about to appear, she couldn't help but look back. Now that the show is halfway through, she still hasn't seen Zhang Lingzi. Is it possible that this person will not only participate in this big show, but also be the finale like the previous Liang Chuan show? She intuitively felt that this guess was a bit unbelievable, but once the guess appeared, she couldn't suppress it. Walk. With a soft drink in her ear, she quickly gathered her thoughts and walked out to the beat. It's Han Rui, and there's actually a model from our Huazhu. Although Han Rui is not very good at stage walking, her face and figure are really plus points. She is the only one who can wear this kind of Chinese-style clothing. I hope our Huazhu can produce a few more internationally renowned models, there are still too few now. Back behind the scenes, Han Rui breathed a sigh of relief. She knew that her stage moves were not as good as others. Fortunately, although her performance this time was not perfect, it was still good. "That's right, you can take off your makeup now, you'll be done with it after this trip. Some people with strong professional skills will go to the second and third games, but they only have this one and they are done." Han Rui changed back into her own clothes, sat down and had her makeup removed. He asked casually, "Where's Zhang Lingzi? It's not her turn yet." "No, it seems like I haven't come out of the compartment over there, Sister Han. Can we take off our makeup and leave?" "No, I want to see the next show." She always felt uncomfortable unless she saw Zhang Lingzi's performance with her own eyes. "There is a thought that has been lingering in my mind. If Liang Chuandaxiu had not given up on Yun Chan, would Zhang Lingzi still have a chance to come forward? Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry." Author, Press 11. Chapter 644. But there was no one idle backstage. After packing up, Han Rui left with her people. She asked the staff for a simple high chair at the front of the show and chose an unobtrusive location to sit down. There were still those familiar faces coming and going on the stage, but she was not in the mood to learn from these people's steps and performance on stage at the moment, just because Zhang Lingzi hadn't appeared for a long time. The anxiety that was originally suppressed in her heart gradually spread to her face. She just made a random guess before, couldn't she just guess it right? With so many internationally renowned supermodels present, how and why could Zhang Lingzi be the finale? It makes no sense at all. Seeing that the person she thought was most likely to be the finale also turned back behind the scenes, the originally strong rhythmic music on the show suddenly changed its tone, and a clear zither played through the gap. The heads of everyone who had been looking at the colorful flowers for a while were almost subconsciously clear, and they all looked to the left and right. What was that sound just now? It sounds like a Chinese guhan. I was lucky enough to hear it played once before. I plucked it with my hands and the sound was very nice. Sitting directly behind Shen Yunqing, Wei and I noticed that the gentleman in front of him was a little absent-minded. Until the zither played, his whole state changed. She subconsciously followed the other person's gaze and looked over. Not only did the music on the entire show stage be changed to majestic and powerful ancient Chinese music, but the scene also changed accordingly. Pavilions, towers, and pavilions, the sun breaking through the sky, and the myriad floating worlds all passing by in a flash. Finally, it was transformed into a tall and majestic gatehouse with 9 levels of royal steps below. The non-Chinese people present are still a little confused about why the scene and music have changed as they are now, but the native Chinese people and the Chinese audience in the live broadcast room have begun to get excited and look forward to it. I recognize this scene. It was in the trailer of Empress Yuan Zhao that was released not long ago. I admire that for a short trailer of less than 30 seconds, I can still remember the previous one so clearly. The old man borrowed a scene from someone else's TV series, so I asked if he has applied for authorization. This is a win-win situation. The producers of Empress Yuan Zhao will definitely agree to it as long as they are not stupid. Have you misunderstood the point? Is the point now about whose scene this is borrowed from? Isn't the point why the scene is used here? Yes, why is it used here? Dante, tell me. If you show it like this, the picture is really shocking. I saw that several people in the audience subconsciously opened their mouths. Lu Zhengzheng squatted for a while watching the barrage in the live broadcast room. When he raised his head, he was already smiling so hard that he couldn't even see his eyes. Sister Zixi really used the song I picked. Her reputation as a library of ancient and modern songs is worthy of her reputation. Today is another day when I can help Sister Zixi. I am satisfied. Yes, yes, Tong, you also smiled from ear to ear. I'll give you a salary increase later. Several pairs of eyes looked expectantly at the center of the tall gate tower and the 9-layer imperial staircase. The person they were expecting would appear from that place. Han Rui's fingers had already tightened the fabric on her thighs, and her eyes were fixed on the runway. It's not her, it's not her, it's not her. There was another clear zither sound, which shattered the silent thoughts. At the same time, the tall gate tower opened in response, and behind the door suddenly appeared the floating clouds and the nine-layered palace. It's just that it's not as good as the figure standing on the nine-level imperial steps in front of the tall gate tower. Under the ingenious black crown is a jade-white face. At this moment, the eyebrows and eyes are slightly drooped, showing a serious look. The dragon robe on her body is an extremely pure and authentic red, which makes the flying dragon embroidered on it stand out in the sky as if it will break through the clothes and fly up in the next second. Mountains, rivers, flowers, plants, and trees are spread under your feet, and the majesty of the world is supported by you. I don't know if it was because of the person's aura, but the show place where there were some whispers suddenly became quiet at this moment, and even the continuous sound of shutters disappeared. The high-definition footage shot in the live broadcast room is clearer than the picture seen by everyone at the scene. Although the awe-inspiring atmosphere is not deeply felt through the screen, the barrage is also blank. No one is willing to take their eyes away at this moment. Zhang Lingzi took steps in this atmosphere where the whole place was quiet and only the ancient music from China was still playing. She still doesn't have the swaying steps of models, but she doesn't need to at this moment. She walked down the 9-level royal stairs at her own pace, which was actually just a projection of the screen. During this period, her slightly lowered eyes slowly raised and glanced at the audience sitting around the catwalk. This seemingly casual glance fell in the eyes of everyone present, and they only felt awe-inspiring. Inexplicably, I felt as small as dust. Many people felt their breathing suddenly tightening, and even their fingers secretly grasped the hem of their clothes without even realizing it. Approaching the end of the catwalk, the staff standing by will come to their senses and are about to step forward to help arrange the hem of the model's robes. After all, the hem of this dragon robe trailing to the ground is still nearly 3 meters long. Before she could make a move, Zhang Lingzi turned around without hesitation, causing the hem of her robe to fly up, and then landed neatly on the ground. It is no exaggeration to say that it is even neater than her own hands. This technique is still powerful, so I can't help but say the word submit. The staff quietly retreated with slightly weak knees. However, this time Zhang Lingzi did not go backstage directly like the other models in front. When she was halfway there, Mr. Casso walked onto the show stage wearing the same upright traditional clothes. The two happened to meet each other. Then everyone saw that the white-haired old man did not speak immediately, but took a step back with his left leg, placed his right hand on his left shoulder, and performed a courtier's etiquette familiar to the nobles here. This is enough for the ceremony. But everyone who saw the scene was also shocked and couldn't help but take a breath. But after thinking about it again, it's quite reasonable. This is the finale of the show. Needless to say, the dragon robe is amazing. The key point is the old man's choice of model. The appearance and momentum are extremely outstanding. Looking around the world, they really can't think of anyone who can be more suitable for this dragon robe than this one. There is really no one else with this kind of vision. After completing the courtesy, Kasuo took the microphone handed over by the staff and looked at Zhang Lingzi with a smile. "I'm very pleased." Zhang Lingzi gave him the most perfect answer sheet and also gave him the most regret-free ending. These 4 words were said for no reason, but both the people at the scene and the audience in the live broadcast room understood them somehow. You must have guessed that this show will be my last show before I retire. I also know that everyone is asking, why am I rushing to retire when I can still continue to work? After all, I am also a person who often surfs the internet, and I have read a lot of your discussions here. I will give a unified reply to everyone's reasons. Because I have harvested the most proud work of my life, and I have a premonition that there will be no other work that can surpass this one in my lifetime. I am satisfied and contented. Thank you all for your continued support and love. Thank you to the girls who helped me display my works, and thank you to Ling 11 for giving me a perfect ending." As the old man bowed deeply, the audience burst into applause. John Lingzi and Mr. Casso took a photo together after being shouted at enthusiastically, and then returned to the backstage with steady steps. Behind her, the opened gatehouse closed. Han Rui was helped up by the assistant beside her. Her legs were so weak that she couldn't stand. "Let's go, let's go." She has finished watching John Lingzi's performance on the catwalk, and the result is that the figure wearing a dragon robe standing on the 9th level of the royal steps will become her nightmare in the next period of time. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 645. After the big show, what follows is the Big Bang. John Lingzi was still taking off her makeup and changing back to her original dress backstage when she received an impatient message from Tong Yu. Bang, bang, bang. Repeating it 3 times in a row and adding 3 exclamation points shows how excited I am. John Lingzi, what broke out? Tong Yu, what else could it be, you, and it's a huge hit on the entire internet. Followed by another. Be careful when you come out later, I'm afraid the media will come to block you. John Lingzi, got it? Tong Yu looked at the 3 words that came back on the phone screen and couldn't help but complained in a low voice, "This girl, why doesn't she feel excited at all?" It's just a complaint, the corner of her mouth has not dropped since just now. The barrages in the live broadcast room have finally returned to normal, but they are not normal again. Oh my god, all the hairs on my body are still standing on end right now. It's so shocking. John Lingzi, no, when His Majesty glanced at the camera, I got goosebumps all over my body. It's not an exaggeration at all. Who can compete with this momentum? It really feels like an emperor looking down on all things. I am even more looking forward to the release of Empress Yuan Zhao soon. I am now confident that John Lingzi can perform the style of a legendary empress. I have a hunch that the drama Empress Yuan Zhao should be able to go global, right? It's possible. I just went online and wandered around, and John Lingzi became a hit with this finale show. The first hot search discussion list was that Mr. Casuo retired, and the second was John Lingzi's Dragon Robe catwalk show. It seems that this time, John Lingzi really won the pot. By the way, what about those people who said that John Lingzi left the table suddenly and disrespected Mr. Casuo's show? Who knew that she actually held back a big one this time? Can I say that I was so shocked that I forgot what I said before? The barrage that has been sent out cannot be withdrawn, so I won't say anything anymore and kneel down. Can't I admit that John Lingzi is a real cow? Thank you Mr. Casuo for your appreciation of John Lingzi, and thank you also to John Lingzi for her perfect performance in the finale show. This cooperation is unparalleled in the world. The person in front said what I wanted to say, give it a thumbs up. Following Mr. Casso's sincere speech, he was helped to leave by the staff, and everyone in the audience also left one after another. Zhou Lingyu was about to ask Zhang Kaiwen to leave with her. She couldn't stay in this place for a second. Turning around, he saw Wei Minmin muttering next to him. I'm going to sit down for a while, and Sister 11 will come out and take a photo with her later. Add me, I want to take a photo too. Then I am first and you are second. Don't compete with me. Okay, I'll let you. Zhang Kaiwen felt that as a man, he had to be generous, just tell me, don't laugh at me. Institutions. I wanted to pursue Sister 11 before, but now I have changed my mind. Wei Minmin suddenly raised her eyebrows, you are bold and treasonous. You actually dare to think of His Majesty. Zhou Lingyu also quietly pricked up her ears. Zhang Kaiwen continued, wait until I finish speaking. Now I feel that I am not worthy at all. That's pretty much it. Zhou Lingyu stood up awkwardly, her movements a bit large, causing the 2 people next door who were muttering quietly to look over. She tried to make a smile but couldn't, so she stopped pretending. You 2 wait, I'll go back first. Oh, bye. See you later. Zhou Lingyu. Can you be more perfunctory? Asterisk. Weenie pulled at Gu Jiantong, who was sitting motionless next to her. Seeing that she had no reaction, he could only call in a low voice, Jiantong, Jiantong. Gu Jiantong took a deep breath to calm down, bit her lips and looked at Shen Yunqing, who had already stood up in front of him. Looking at the direction the other party is going, are you going to pick up Zhang Lingzi in person after the show? That Zhang Lingzi. No one knew that when Zhang Lingzi looked down the stage on the catwalk, he glanced in her direction. At that time, even she was shocked by the aura of the other party wearing a dragon robe and looking around. She was caught off guard and met Zhang Lingzi's eyes. At that moment, she felt extreme indifference, the emptiness and intimidation of all living beings, and her mind even fell into a blank state under the gaze of those eyes. When those eyes moved away, she realized that she had even forgotten to breathe, her heart and lungs were so suffocated that it hurt, and her back was even colder. Since then, she has been in a state of unconsciousness, and she did not even listen to the slightest bit of Mr. Casso's speech. At this moment, she couldn't say anything against Zhang Lingzi. It was because she had subconscious cowardice in her heart. Jiantong. Gu Jiantong slowly turned his head to look at Wei Ni. I met my friend's rare serious look. What? Weenie patted her heavily on the shoulder and whispered a serious and sincere tone of advice, listen to my advice and find someone else to like. Even she could not help but be impressed by such a person just now. She really couldn't see any hope from Gu Jiantong. But. Stop it, let's go. I'll hold another dance party before you leave. Since Mr. Shen has been favored by Miss Zhang, then look away from Mr. Shen. You will find that there are many good guys in the world. Am I wording it wrong? I'm pretty good at Chinese. Gu Jiantong couldn't help but look back in Shen Yunqing's direction. I saw him standing in an inconspicuous shadow backstage, opposite Zhang Lingzi, who had just finished cleaning up. This man lowered his head and carefully wrapped the beads on Zhang Lingzi's hand, circle after circle. The expression and movements are even a bit pious. In a blink of an eye, she was pulled out by Winnie. But the image was as clear as if it had been engraved into my mind. Asterisk. In a hidden corner of the show, Yin Chong was dressed in black, with a high black collar and a black top hat. He also wore a pair of black gloves on his hands. The whole person blended perfectly into the darkness. He only learned some basic qi-gazing techniques from the sect master. But even this simple qi-gazing technique allowed him to feel the soaring light cyan aura on Zhang Lingzi's body at this moment. The good wind carries me up to the blue clouds with its power. That comes from the love of countless audiences, who are rushing to gather here. Even though every strand of love is still very shallow now, in time, he is not surprised that Zhang Lingzi can gather all these loves and condense them into a more powerful aura. It's so envy-inducing. No wonder even he felt that the sect master was a little out of control. Having such an opponent brought too much threat. Can Chang Kangman really escape unscathed this time? He was a little unsure. Zhang Lingzi glanced at the beads wrapped around her wrist again, then suddenly turned her head and looked at a corner. But she only saw a slender black figure who lowered the brim of his hat and disappeared from her sight. Looking at what? Nothing. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 646. Flowers are blooming, and fire is cooking oil. What a great thing. Looking at the figure on TV surrounded by many bodyguards, and there were still many media swarming around the figure who wanted to interview him, Wu Hua slowly put down the empty red wine glass with a sigh in his tone. Hearing footsteps approaching behind her, she turned away from the TV and tilted her head slightly. Have everyone brought them? How are the arrangements for the celebration dinner? Go back to the master, everyone has been brought and everything is ready. Good. Wilhua nodded with satisfaction, stood up and walked out. The figure standing in the corner with his head bowed couldn't help but ask, Master, where are you going? Go and add fire to her. As Wilhua spoke, she stretched out her hand and pointed. The man looked in the direction she pointed. It was the famous figure on TV. Muttered in a low voice, John Lingzi. If you listen carefully, you can still hear the lingering resentment in this voice. The fashion ceremony ended successfully, and the subsequent celebration banquet was held in the evening. It is also considered that everyone has been busy all morning, so if you have free time in the afternoon, you can take a good rest, so that you can have the energy to cope with the banquet in the evening. However, after Zhang Lingzi struggled to break through the siege of the media, she did not follow Tong Yu and the others back to Chongxiao Tower to rest. Instead, she got directly into Carl's car and went to Wuji's place. As for why I still took Carl's car, it didn't bother the two masters. When she met Wuju and the others, Zhang Lingzi was still wearing the green lotus-colored heavy-duty dress. Originally, she was planning to go back to Mr. Casso's studio to return the dress, but as soon as she called him and told her about it, the old man waved his hand and said neatly that he would give the dress directly to her. There was no need to give it back this time, and she didn't bother to find a place to change it, so she just wore it over here. As soon as he entered the door, he was pulled by Chang Ning to take a group photo. Sister 11 is so powerful and domineering that she dominates the world. Have you watched the live broadcast too? Hey. She not only watched the live broadcast, but also posted a lot of comments. Sister 11, sir, let's have some tea. Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing sat side by side on the sofa. Before they finished half a cup of tea, they saw Wuju coming down the stairs, his expression a little more solemn than last time. Putting down the teacup, Zhang Lingzi turned and looked at Shen Yunqing. But what happened? Wuju nodded, his eyes fell on Zhang Lingzi's face again, and then looked at the Buddhist beads she was wearing on her wrist. Since Chang Ning was in the kitchen at the moment, he simply called directly, Your Majesty, do you feel better? Zhang Lingzi moved her wrist in response, I don't feel any discomfort anymore. This prayer bead. She was about to take it off as she spoke, but Wuju quickly raised his hand to stop it, Your Majesty, please continue to wear it. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows, is it still useful? Possible. These three words made Shen Yunqing frown, what changes have you noticed? The people from Changkangmen have been making frequent moves in the past 2 days. I suspect they are planning to make some big move, Wuju said and looked at Zhang Lingzi, when will your majesty be leaving here? If nothing else happens, it will be tomorrow. This place is not big, and she has already done all the shopping and eating on her first day here. The fashion festival is also over, and there is only a celebration dinner left, so she does not plan to stay longer. Is there anything else you can do before leaving? There will be a celebration dinner tonight. Seeing Wuju lowering his eyes and saying nothing, Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing thought of a possibility at the same time. Will Wuhua take action at the celebration dinner? The celebration dinner is a mixed bag, and it is indeed a good opportunity to fish in troubled waters. But even if he guessed this, he still couldn't tell what kind of measures Wuhua would use at that time. However, none of the three people present thought of simply avoiding the dinner. Let's not talk about how much public opinion Zhang Lingzi will cause as a popular candidate for the ceremony, but willfully absent from the dinner. Wuhua's plan cannot be avoided if you want to. If I hid this time, it is possible that I will have to hide for the rest of my life. Besides, the word hide doesn't even exist in her dictionary. There is always a solution to a problem. Just take advantage of it as you see it. Seeing the two people in front of him, Wuju told them how to deal with it, so he had no choice but to tell them his plans directly. I will be more conspicuous when I show up. When the time comes, your Majesty will have someone with you, so let's take Chang Ning with him. Zhang Lingzi looked at his bare head and nodded, okay. Liuzhu handed over another low-key looking brooch. This is a miniature communicator made by Chang Fu. Your Majesty can just pin it on your clothes when the time comes. Yunqing and I will stay outside. If something is wrong, both of us can also know His Majesty's condition in time. Zhang Lingzi took the brooch and looked at it carefully, only to see that the center of one of the sapphires inlaid on the brooch was twinkling. It's quite exquisite, said, and put it on directly on his dress. She doesn't plan to change her dress. She can wear this dress to the dinner party. It's just too troublesome to ask. Chang Ning poked his head out of the kitchen and said, lunch is ready, can you eat it? As expected, there will be a tough battle to be fought in the evening, so of course we need to eat and drink enough to fully recharge our batteries. Asterisk. After being taken back to Alber's manor by her friends, Gu Jiantong had no appetite for lunch and went directly back to the guest room to rest. Tossing and turning for a while before I felt sleepy, I ended up having a nightmare after falling asleep. When she suddenly opened her eyes from the nightmare, she saw a figure on the sofa at the end of the bed that was even scarier than the nightmare. You, how did you get in? If she remembered correctly, she locked the door to her room before going to bed. Even the curtains on the balcony were closed. Hearing the sound, Wilhua slowly turned around and glanced at her. Wake up. I saw you were having a nightmare just now, so I didn't bother you. Gu Jiantong. Is this human language? But she only dared to slander him in her heart. Facing the mysterious and erratic woman in front of her, she subconsciously felt that she was in danger. You, why did you come to me? Zhang Lingzi is about to return to China. Gu Jiantong was stunned for a moment, and then his face turned a few degrees paler. The subject of her nightmare just now was Zhang Lingzi. Whether she returns to the country or not, what does it have to do with me? Wilhua narrowed his eyes, and his tone was a little more dangerous when he spoke again. Do you want to regret it? No, can't you? It's just a show in a dragon robe. Do you really think that she is an emperor who can take life and death? How courageous is the daughter of the Gu family? You are really a shame for your family. If you let other Gu family members know you don't even dare to deal with a little star in the entertainment industry, what do you think they will think of you, the eldest daughter of the Gu family? Gu Qintong's chest heaved violently after being spoken to. She is indeed the eldest daughter of the Gu family, but the Gu family is a highly competitive family. Each person who takes the top position has to defeat other competitors before taking the throne. In the Gu family, the status of winners and losers can be said to be very different. She must not be looked down upon by the rest of the Gu family, as that will affect her status in Grandpa's heart. But when I think about the person I have to deal with is Zhang Lingzi. And I'm here to help you. What's there to be afraid of? The cold black gauze brushed her cheeks, and Gu Jiantong raised her eyes and met a pair of eyes full of bewilderment and coldness. You definitely don't want to know. I'm here to regret it. What will happen? It was obviously as warm as spring in the room, but Gu Jiantong couldn't help but shiver. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 647. Night is coming. Weenie looked at her friend who was walking behind her in surprise. Aren't you planning to go to the celebration banquet? Why do you want to go to it again? Gu Jiantong smiled. If you look closely, you can see that her smile is a bit stiff. I suddenly felt that staying in the manor was quite boring, so I might as well go out and relax, and this afternoon has passed, and I have adjusted myself. As long as you can figure it out on your own, Winnie smiled happily, got up and walked to the open cloakroom on the side with enthusiasm. I have a sister style of this dress, can you wear the other one? Okay. Gu Jiantong looked at Wei Ni's back as she went to get her dress in person, and silently said sorry in her heart. She doesn't want to take advantage of her friends either. However, if a man does not serve himself, he will be punished by heaven and earth. Asterisk. Zhang Lingzi took a nap in the afternoon, without any dreams, and slept as peacefully as usual. Having experienced so many crises in her previous life, and more life and death moments than she could count on both hands, she really didn't feel there was anything to be nervous about. On the contrary, Changning, who was tasked with following her to attend the banquet, seemed a little more nervous. This banquet will be held in Tang Palace. As the name suggests, this is a palace-like building. At night, the entire huge building was already lit up with bright lights, illuminating a radius of 100 meters as if it were daytime. The welcome ball held by the second son of the Albers family before could be said to pale into insignificance compared with the celebration banquet. Previously, the welcome party had only invited celebrities, and most of them were relatively young and lively. It was considered a dance for young people. At this celebration banquet, not only the major stars who have walked on the red carpet before will be present, but also the heads of major luxury brands, and even Mr. Casso himself will make an appearance. There are even rumors that even the current head of the Albers family will attend this banquet. This is a real social feast. Everyone who arrived was in the same state as they were on the red carpet during the day. After all, there are more big names, which means there are more good opportunities. No one is willing to give up such a good opportunity, even just getting a valuable business card is good. Zhou Lingyu came with this purpose in mind. She no longer expects to rise like a dark horse like Zhang Lingzi, but she still has to fight for the opportunities she can. The banquet has not officially started, and she is already walking around with a wine glass. Until she heard a loud movement at the entrance of the banquet, many people looked over, and she also turned to take a look. It turned out that the eldest lady of the Albers family came, and Miss Gu, who had spent a lot of money at the charity dinner. The two of them wore dresses of similar colors and styles. As soon as they appeared, the banquet reached its first climax. But before she found a chance to go over to say hello to these two people, she saw a more substantial figure slowly walking from behind. Mr. Casso. The person who appeared next to the old man in front of everyone was Zhang Lingzi. As for Changning, who followed Zhang Lingzi and deliberately concealed his presence, he was gorgeously ignored by everyone. Even Winnie, who was reserved in response to the crowd's enthusiasm, turned around and gave an elegant junior salute to Mr. Casso. "Uncle, good day." Casso looked at his junior in front of him, and his tone became more friendly. "Winnie is here too. Let's have fun with our friends." "Uncle Wei," and I said, and looked at Zhang Lingzi, smiling and praising, "Miss Jiang's dragon robe show is really unforgettable." Zhang Lingzi also raised a smile and nodded slightly towards her. "Thank you." By the way, he also glanced at Gu Jiantong, who was standing next to Winnie, and was a little silent. This eldest lady is not so arrogant now. Even the whole person's aura is a bit dark and gloomy. She touched the beads on her wrist and looked away lightly. With the arrival of Mr. Kasuo and Zhang Lingzi, the social center of the entire banquet hall also quietly shifted. Everyone was not surprised that Zhang Lingzi and Mr. Kasuo arrived together. Zhang Lingzi was like a star that the old man had discovered before he retired and was gradually blooming with his own unique light. Naturally, he had to give more support to his favorites before he faded out of everyone's sight. Child. But what they didn't know was that Zhang Lingzi really just met the old man at the door. Originally, she planned to bring Changning into the banquet in a low-key manner and observe if there was anything wrong at the banquet. After meeting with the old man, he took the initiative to invite them in together. She knew that this was his good intention, so she could only give up her original plan first. With the old man, it was impossible for her not to keep a high profile. No matter where you go, people will gather there. Even if you just come over to have a drink, say hello and hand over a business card, it's easy to deal with, but there are too many people. And as the dinner is about to officially begin, More and more people are arriving. Unknowingly, the glass of red wine she had in her hand when she came in was finished in one sip. She also accumulated a lot of exquisite business cards. When she couldn't take them down, she gave them to Chang Ning to help hold them. Chang Ning changed a new glass of red wine that was absolutely fine and handed it to Zhang Lingzi. At the same time, he shouted in a low voice, "Sister 11. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows, turned to look at her, then turned her head and said to Mr. Casuo, "Old man, I met a few friends and went over to say hello." Casso waved his hand cheerfully, "Go ahead, you young people can have more fun." Zhang Lingzi separated from the old man, turned around and took Chang Ning to a corner with few people, and then asked in a low voice, "Did you find something?" "I just saw a person, but there were too many people here." The person's face flashed by, and I'm not sure if I was dazzled. "Who did you see?" "Guan Yuan." Guan Yuan, Zhang Lingzi frowned and thought for a while, but she didn't expect where she had heard this name before. "Who is this?" Before Chang Ning could speak, a voice sounded in her ears. "It's Guan Xiaotao's missing father." As soon as Zhang Lingzi mentioned Xiaotao, she remembered it. That girl used to be Zhang Ziu's assistant, and she was most likely taken to Chang Kangman's headquarters. This girl is also the only one who may have been to the Chang Kangman headquarters. It's a pity that her memory was tampered with when she was released. In short, all three members of this family were tortured miserably by Chang Kangman. Now Guan Xiaotao and her mother He Qingwen have temporarily escaped from the control of Chang Kangman with the help of Wu Ju, but Guan Yuan is still missing. They had guessed that this person might have been killed by people from the Chang Kang clan, or he might still be under the control of the Chang Kang clan. If the person Chang Ning saw just now is really Guan Yuan, then the possibility of the latter is very high. If Guan Yuan appears here, it can only be the work of Chang Kangman. Is this using Guan Yuan as bait? End of chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 648. Although it is not a good intention, it is a real conspiracy. If Guan Yuan was really brought here by the people from Chang Kangman, they would not be able to ignore him if they saw him. After all, it was with Xiao Tao's cooperation that they learned that behind Mei Shuiqing there was a larger organization located outside of China. This girl could have left Jiangziu, but she still worked hard and returned to Jiangziu. Be on your side and respond accordingly. If they see Guan Yuan, but worry about others ignoring him, let alone practicing Buddhism, Zhang Lingzi will think that he can't do it. Besides, Wu Hua used Guan Yuan as bait. If the bait did not work as it should, given Wu Hua's ruthlessness, one can imagine Guan Yuan's fate. Looking at it this way, Wu Hua is sure that they will bite the hook. So after biting the hook, what will happen next? Zhang Lingzi glanced at the faces in the huge banquet hall without leaving any trace. Not only the guests, but also the service staff who shuttled among them. How many people from Chang Kangman were mixed in among them? As my mind was racing, Shen Yunqing's voice sounded in my ears again, "Don't act rashly yet." He knew that His Majesty always liked to take the initiative, but the situation was not clear for the time being, so it was better to see if the other party had other arrangements first. Zhang Lingzi was about to go in the direction where Chang Ning had found Guan Yuan before, but when he heard this, he had to stop and said, "Yeah." Even though she was standing in the corner, her face was still a conspicuous sign, but after standing for a while, several groups of people came to say hello. Zhang Lingzi had just dealt with it briefly when she saw Wei Minmin and Zhang Kaiwen walking towards her together again. She couldn't help but hold her forehead. She had planned to stay away from everyone today, but she was afraid that something unexpected would happen and affect the people around her. Wei Minmin is okay. Zhang Kaiwen has always been with Zhou Lingyu. They got together at the show before, and now they get together again. Sister 11, why are you hiding here for free? It's hard for us to find you. Zhang Lingzi clinked glasses with the two people who came over. Which of you saw me hiding for a while? The front leg just finished socializing, and the back leg came over. This is the price of the fire, Wei Minmin said with a crooked smile. Sister 11, just get used to it. Zhang Lingzi took a sip of red wine and ignored her. Wei Minmin smiled and said hello to Changning, who was standing aside. Changning. Good evening, Miss Wei. Zhang Kaiwen had never met Changning, but looking at her position, he asked, is this Changning also Sister 11's assistant? This question was answered by Wei Minmin, still a bodyguard. Changning is very skilled. Zhang Kaiwen agreed. Sister 11 really needs a skilled assistant now. After the fire, not only good opportunities will increase, but also crises will increase. After all, the number of people in this circle who are deliberately trying to drag you down from your high places will only increase, not decrease. Unless you stand on the clouds where they can't touch you. Zhang Lingzi is currently only favored by all parties and has the potential to become a big hit, but he is still far from reaching the clouds. The three of them chatted in a relaxed atmosphere for a while, but it was Zhang Lingzi who first noticed the change in the atmosphere of the banquet hall. Although Changning is sensitive to the perception of danger, he is not yet familiar with the changes in the banquet atmosphere. She tilted her head slightly and looked towards the huge palace-style staircase in the center of the banquet. Wei Minmin and Zhang Kaiwen, who were still bickering in a low voice, took a step late and quickly turned around and looked over when they realized what was going on. Standing on the stairs at this moment was a three-generation group of old, middle-aged, and young people. They had just appeared, and they had already attracted 99% of the attention of the entire banquet hall. Wei Minmin couldn't help but exclaimed, this ant actually showed up. No introduction is needed at this point. Zhang Lingzi already knows who the old lady standing in the middle is, with elegant and calm eyebrows. The current leader of the Albers family, Albers Kori, has been in power for more than 40 years and is considered a legendary figure. This is the person who really stands in the clouds. After all, the other party is still active at nearly 90 years old. Even Mr. Casso can only be a junior in front of this man. Who asked him to marry the niece of this old lady? Having the highest seniority and highest status, it is no wonder that everyone subconsciously kept silent and paid attention to this old man. Weenie walked forward with Gu Jiantong, great aunt. Abscoli lowered her eyes to look at the grandniece in front of her, and said in a majestic yet intimate voice, Winnie. After saying that, he looked at Gu Jiantong, who was standing next to his grandniece, the little girl of the Gu family. Gu Jiantong was so nervous that her heartbeat skipped half a beat. This is a person who even her own grandfather must treat with caution and politeness, not to mention that she still has something on her mind. Yes, Jiantong, it's nice to meet you. Don't be nervous, just go and have fun. Wenela pulled Gu Jiantong up and stepped back obediently. After the junior had finished saying hello, Kasuo also stepped forward to say hello, and by the way, he also took away his wife who was accompanying the old lady. After the members of the Albers family went over to say hello to their elders, the only ones who went over to say hello were some of the heavyweights present. Most people are self-aware that they are not qualified to stand in front of this person. Even Gu Jiantong, the eldest daughter of the Gu family, would not be qualified to come up to say hello alone if she were not led by Miss Wei Ni. The atmosphere in the banquet hall became formal. Fortunately, the old man did not stay long. After leaving the stern-looking eldest son in charge of entertaining everyone, he turned and returned to the second floor surrounded by a group of guests who could speak in front of her. Although the eldest son who was left behind was a bit indifferent, he was still young and had not developed the aura to suppress everyone when he showed up. The atmosphere in the banquet hall slowly became lively again. In less than 10 minutes when Abscoli appeared and left, Zhang Lingzi and the other three watched from a distance without moving. They looked away and no one spoke for a while. Zhang Lingzi had something on her mind and didn't want to say anything, while Wei Minmin and Zhang Kaiwen were still immersed in the shock of meeting the big boss in person for the first time. Chang Ning reminded her in a low voice, "Sister 11. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows when she saw the person walking towards her. Wei Minmin belatedly turned around and looked over, eyes widening. "Let me go, why is this young master here? He can't be here to find me." As he spoke, he turned to look at Zhang Lingzi again. "Sister 11, this is not here to find you, right?" Among the three of them here, in her opinion, the only one who can receive such treatment is Sister 11. Thinking of this, she silently took 2 steps back. "I'm very conscious and never get in the way." Soon, the visitor stood in front of Zhang Lingzi. "I have admired Miss Zhang for a long time. Don't dare to take it seriously. Miss Zhang makes it easy for me to find her." The usually indifferent person smiled for the first time, which almost made Wei Minmin's eyes fall off. "It seems that Miss Zhang prefers peace and quiet. It just so happens that although my aunt is not here today, I was there, but I also watched Uncle Casso's show on live broadcast, and I admired Miss Zhang very much. If she feels that the hall is noisy, Miss Zhang can move to the 2nd floor. The hall on the 2nd floor is smaller, but it is quieter than here." The sound of Wei Minmin taking a breath was heard in her ears. Zhang Lingzi looked at the smiling face in front of her, which was worse than not smiling. She took off her prayer beads and twisted them in her hands. She smiled back and said, "Excuse me. Don't tell me she is quite curious. There are suspected traces of UN on the 1st floor. What will be waiting for her on the 2nd floor?" End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 649. "Miss Zhang, please." Zhang Lingzi tilted her head and exchanged glances with Chang Ning, then looked at Wei Minmin and Zhang Kaiwen, who were standing aside like obedient babies. I saw that the eldest son not only smiled, he was also very talkative. "Are you two friends from Ms. Zhang? Why don't we go together?" Before he could finish speaking, Wei Minmin quickly waved her hand. No, 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 I won't go up with you. I feel more comfortable down here." Zhang Kaiwen also nodded in disbelief. Although they admired and respected the big guys on the 2nd floor, that was all. If they were allowed to stay in front of these big guys, they would not know what to do with their hands and feet. It would be embarrassing in front of the boss, so I'd better stay downstairs. Don't take such good things with them. "Sister 11, let's go there for a walk," Wei Minmin said, already pulling on Zhang Kaiwen's clothes, waving and dragging him away. Zhang Lingzi. Those who don't know better think that the 2nd floor is some sort of dragon's pond and tiger's den. However, it is not impossible. It would be better if these two fools didn't go up with her out of curiosity. Many people in the banquet hall saw Zhang Lingzi being invited to the 2nd floor by the eldest son of the Albers family. For a moment, their envious eyes could pierce their backs. Unexpectedly, Zhang Lingzi's face, whose back was turned to them, was not to mention excited, and even the smile on his face gradually disappeared. "I don't know if the eldest son recognizes this person. Her name is Wu Hua." Abshamir paused, and his movements were so light that others could not notice him. "Wu Hua, are you from China?" "I don't know many people from China, and I have never heard of this name." "That was my presumption." But Chang Ning, who was following Zhang Lingzi, and Shen Yunqing and Wu Ju, who heard the conversation, suddenly became tense. Although the three of them did not communicate with each other, the same idea came to their minds. It is impossible for Zhang Lingzi to ask such a sensitive question for no reason. There is only one possibility. There must be something wrong with the eldest son of the Albers family. On the 2nd floor, it is indeed much quieter than the first floor. The semi-open small hall has all kinds of drinks, desserts, and flowers. From the railing, you can also overlook the lobby on the first floor. It is an excellent location to take a break from the bustle. Miss Zhang, sit wherever you like. My great aunt may come out to talk to Miss Zhang when she has some free time. Okay, the eldest son can just go and do his work. There is no need to stay here. The gentleman Abshamir nodded, turned around and strode away. Zhang Lingzi sat down on the sofa, and Shen Yunqing's voice and Chang Ning's voice sounded almost simultaneously in her ears. Your Majesty. Sister 11. Stop immediately and at the same time. However, Chang Ning was stopped by Zhang Lingzi's eyes, and Shen Yunqing heard Chang Ning's voice. Don't panic, I know what you two want to ask. Zhang Lingzi reached out and took out a golden orange from the fruit plate to play with, and at the same time replied in a low voice to their doubts, I did notice from the eldest young master Albers. It has an aura similar to that of Wu Hua. The other person's coldness is not just superficial coldness, but also a kind of coldness that makes her uncomfortable. Looking closely, you can see that the eldest son's skin color does not seem to be naturally cold white, but a kind of paleness caused by low temperature. That's why she suddenly said the name Wu Hua on a whim, while paying attention to the person's reaction. She noticed that slight pause and just pretended not to know. After all, if the other person doesn't admit it, she can't force him to admit it by pulling his neck. Just tacitly aware of it. I speculate that he should be in contact with Wu Hua. We have also speculated before that Wu Hua and the Albos family are likely to be related, so this Al-Bashimir is likely to be from Wu Hua. As soon as Shen Yunqing finished speaking, Chang Ning suddenly spoke up again. Sister 11, Guan Yuan. Zhang Lingzi looked in the direction she indicated. From the second floor to the first floor, it is very clear. You can even see the small movements of some people secretly. It was a man wearing a loose white shirt and his hair was already a little gray. His temperament was a little different from the others present. At this moment, she was following a beautiful middle-aged woman in a black evening gown, looking around from time to time, her face looking a little anxious. As if he noticed the look in his eyes, the man suddenly raised his head and looked over. He was stunned for a moment, and then he shook his head in a vague manner. Zhang Lingzi and Chang Ning frowned when they saw his reaction. Sister 11, what does he mean? He reminds us that there is a trap and tells us to leave him alone. It's possible. Who is the person he is following? Chang Ning shook his head, but Wuju suddenly said, it seems that the plum water is clear. Mei Shui Qing, Zhang Lingzi repeated the name, is it the magician who used Zhang Ziyu to plot against me, but was counterattacked and took Xiao Tao away when he ran away? As she spoke, she glanced at the beautiful middle-aged woman who looked to be in her 30s at most. Unexpectedly, the other party suddenly looked up and raised the wine glass in his hand with a provocative smile. Zhang Lingzi, it seems that the scar has healed and the pain has been forgotten. Mei Shuiqing only controls Guan Yuan, I can handle it. Sister 11, how about I just go over and him away? Chang Ning felt unsure if he had to face Wu Hua. But facing Mei Shuiqing, she felt that given her ability, she should be able to do it easily. Zhang Lingzi looked at Guan Yuan, who was still quietly reminding her not to act rashly, and Mei Shuiqing, whose eyes were provocative, for a moment, and then looked back at Chang Ning, who was eager to try. If Wu Hua had calculated at the beginning that she would bring Chang Ning as a helper, and used Guan Yuan, whom they could not give up, to separate Chang Ning and leave her alone, I have to say that this move was quite successful. However, she always felt that Wu Hua should have more than this trick. Mei Shuiqing looked at Zhang Lingzi, who was still not moving, and couldn't help but sneered, it's more prudent. Let's go. Seeing that the two of them turned to leave, Zhang Lingzi nodded towards Chang Ning. Chang Ning gave her a look that said she was guaranteed to complete the task and ran down quickly. Coincidentally, as soon as Chang Ning left, a door directly opposite the small hall opened, and several people with surnames came out at once. The last person who came out was not Abe Scully. "Who is it again?" One of them saw Zhang Lingzi outside, was stunned for a moment and asked with a smile, "Why is Miss Zhang here alone?" The eldest son said, "The second floor is quiet, so he brought me here for some quietness." "Where is the eldest young master?" "There are so many distinguished guests down here, it's hard to let him accompany us in person." Among the dozens of people in today's show, Miss Zhang is the model that impressed me the most. The man who greeted Zhang Lingzi turned back to look at Abscoli, who suddenly spoke. This person actually praised a junior with open mouth, which is rare. But soon something even more surprising came. "I want to have a chat with this girl alone." Everyone immediately heard the Xian song and knew the elegant art, and they all started to say goodbye. After a while, only Zhang Lingzi and Abscoli stood facing each other and looked at each other quietly in the entire small hall. "What do you always want to say to me?" "That boy Hemel invited Miss Zhang to come up." "It was my intention, but it was not entirely my order," Abscoli said and took a deep breath. "I also asked Miss Zhang to save Hemel. He was killed by the devil bewitched." "Zhang Lingzi. Who will tell her what the plot is?" "Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry." Author, Press 11. Chapter 650. After a few seconds of silence. "Why do you think I can save the eldest son?" "I know," Abscoli said and suddenly paused. She raised her hand and tapped the emerald jade earrings on her ears. "I want to be quiet. Don't let anyone come to the second floor to disturb you without permission." Zhang Lingzi glanced at her earrings and guessed that they were some kind of communicator. "It is quite similar to the brooch she is wearing." After looking back, she glanced at the first floor of the first floor, and saw that Chang Ning had been going down to the first floor, and walked towards Guan Yuan and Mei Shuiqing without any trace. "Whether it's the eldest, second, or young lady, no one is allowed to come and disturb me." After giving the instructions, Abscoli explained to Zhang Lingzi, who was waiting quietly in front of her, "What I want to say next only needs Miss Zhang as an audience. Miss Zhang, please sit down." Zhang Lingzi sat back to her original position. Abscoli walked to the opposite side and sat down. As he considered what he was going to say next, his expression became more and more solemn. Zhang Lingzi observed the changes in the expression of the old man in front of her. In this situation, except for what anyone said, she would listen carefully and choose whether to believe it or not. After Albers considered it, he raised his eyes and met Zhang Lingzi's eyes. There was no emotion of fanatical admiration that was common when people saw her in these eyes. There was only the clear breeze blowing on her face, and a trace of deliberate exploration, which made her angry and worried mind calm down a lot. "I have been kept waiting for a long time. This is really the case, and I can't believe it." "You speak." "Hemil is my preferred heir and the eldest of the third generation. I nurture him more than I love him. We don't meet often, mostly because of work, and he has always been taciturn. When I find out, it was too late when something abnormal happened to him. He was originally a child who was friendly to his younger brothers and sisters, but now, his humanity is disappearing. Kevin and Winnie told me more than once that they are more and more afraid of their elder brother, but I always thought it was because he had accumulated more and more majesty. That devil-like woman, I thought at first that her goal was the Albers family's industry, but although the property is run by Hemel, it is still in my hands. The other party has not revealed any intention to get involved in the Albers family's industry. She only controls Hemir. But if I die, she will control the entire Albos family. Originally, I couldn't find out who this woman was or where she came from. Even if I used my connections and hired detectives and mercenaries, she was like a wisp of smoke, erratic. But this time it's different." Bascoli took a sip of water and looked at the girl opposite, who was always listening calmly. "Hemil mentioned your name, and you are the first member of the opposite that he has paid attention to in such a long time. So I boldly speculated that this is the woman behind him ordered. I admit that I investigated you, Abscoli said with a calm expression. No matter what the reason is, I have to investigate like this. You are outstanding, but also a bit mysterious. But this mystery is not offensive. Especially for those who see you now. With my own eyesight of nearly 100 years, I can finally confirm that you and the hidden woman cannot be friends. That is opposite. That woman will not hesitate to use Hemel and the Albers family behind him to deal with you, Miss Zhang. If anyone can help Hemel wake up from the bewitchment of that woman, I think that person should be you. Zhang Lingzi's eyes flashed with appreciation. The man in front of me is indeed a man who has been in charge of such a large family for more than 40 years. Although this international fashion town looks small, with an area equivalent to a medium-sized city in China, it is independent of all countries and can barely be regarded as a small country. The leader of the Albos family is also the master of this small country. Same, how can one maintain this position for decades without some ability and courage? Abscoli's decisiveness and courage were fully demonstrated at this moment. But she wanted to ask one more question. Aren't you afraid of making mistakes in your judgment? Although I trust my eyes, I dare not say that I will never make a mistake. If I make a mistake this time, it will be the Albos family and Hemir who deserve this disaster. Anyway, I have used all the methods I can use. Why not give it a try? But if Hemir can be successfully saved, Miss Zhang will be the benefactor and friend of the entire Albers family. Even if I am gone, no matter who is the next person in power, this sentence will always be fulfilled. Her name is Wu Hua. Abscoli's back instantly straightened. This name. What? Zhang Lingzi was just thinking about what to say when she saw Abscoli's reaction. It didn't look like she had heard the name for the first time. It feels a bit familiar, Abscoli thought for a moment and shook her head. Miss Zhang, please continue. I wonder if you have heard of the magicians from Huazhu. People are old and knowledgeable. Abscoli nodded. It is said that this kind of people have some mysterious methods. Is this Wu Hua a magician? Zhang Lingzi also nodded towards her, but magicians can also be divided into orthodox and evil ways. Wu Hua's path is the latter. Asterisk. At the same time, the third floor above the second floor is the Tang Palace guest room. In a room at the end of the corridor with no lights and only a few white candles lit, Hemir knelt on one knee in front of Wu Hua, who was still wearing a black gauze dress with only a pair of eyes exposed. Zhang Lingzi suddenly asked your name when she was going upstairs. I guess she was suspicious. Wu Hua blinked his eyes slightly, and a cold smile appeared, as expected. Even Hemil, who was kneeling in front of him, couldn't hear clearly what he said. What? Nothing. Even if you arouse her suspicion, it will have no impact. After all, he is just an abandoned child with no much use. When Hemil went out, Yin Chong, who had been standing quietly in the corner where the candlelight could not reach, walked up to Wu Hua and said, Chang Ning beside Zhang Lingzi has gone to find Guan Yuan, and Zhang Lingzi is talking to Abscoli. But I couldn't hear what they said. Liuzhu and Shen Yunqing were in the building opposite Tang Palace, and they were also paying attention. I underestimated the old woman Abscoli, who can still intervene at this time. Unfortunately, it's too late. Isn't it time for the plum water to clear up? Yin Chong was silent for a moment and nodded. That's almost it. If she could trick Zhang Lingzi before she died, she deserved her death.